Good morning and welcome, everyone. This lodge, located at 4865 Cordell Avenue, Suite 230, Bethesda, meets every Sunday at 11 a.m. for the discussion of a particular topic presented by a student, followed by a question and answer session. And on the first and third Sundays of the month, we're studying the ocean. Is a round table, and all of the students participate in the discussion group. The policy of the ULT is devotion to the cause of Theosophy without having any attachment to a particular organization, and it is loyal to the founders of the movement. And it does not concern itself with differences of opinion. Its main purpose is to disseminate the fundamental principles of Theosophy worldwide, and it invites to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes. In learning the philosophy, applying it to daily life, making it our own, come alive in ourselves, we then truly understand what the higher self and its application to universal brotherhood is. For that reason, the ULT does not have any constitution, bylaws, or officers. It considers everyone as a theosophist who is engaged in true service to humanity without any distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization. For that reason, it is stated that a theosophist belongs to all, as all belongs to each. Today's reading comes from The Voice of the Silence. Be strike the bird of life, if thou wouldst know. The bird referred to here is Kalahansa, whether it is in or out of time and space. Give up thy life, if thou wouldst live. And it is the personal self who is giving up its life so that it can learn to live in the spiritual life. 3 holes, O weary pilgrim, lead to the end of toils. 3 holes of conqueror of Mara will bring thee through 3 states into the 4th. And the 3 states are explained as waking, dreaming, and the sleeping states, which is followed by the 4th, which is Turiya, the highest spiritual consciousness. And then into the 7 worlds, the worlds of rest eternal. If thou wouldst learn their names, then hearken and remember. The name of the first hall is ignorance, avidya. It is the hall in which thou sowest the light, in which thou livest and shalt die. The name of hall the second is the hall of learning, probationary learning. In it thy soul will find the blossoms of life, but under every flower a serpent coiled. Things that we bring from the astral world, we are reminded, have a serpent attached to them, and not to pluck anything from those regions. The name of the third hall is wisdom, beyond which stretch the shoreless waters of Akshara, the indestructible fount of omniscience. This is the highest spiritual consciousness. And now our talk, sleep and dreams.
Good morning, friends, and welcome to another talk at the Theosophy Lodge at Bethesda. Today's talk is sleep and dreams. And this student dreams all the time, non-stop, all kind of dreams, retains all dreams. And this is what led to investigation. What does Theosophy actually tell about dreams? Because we are bombarded with messages about dreams from dream books, from magazines, from TV shows. It is considered to be a very hot topic, or something that you can gain some insight or connect to, from aliens to teachers to anyone else. And I thought it's important to actually examine what the secret doctrine teaches about it, what does Madame Blavatsky wrote herself about it, and the student will attempt to convey it in a very simple, practical terms where we can derive value from dreams, sleeping, and actually understanding mechanics behind dreaming. The two core premises on which this talk will be based is one, you and God, and relationship between you and God. In Theosophical Tenets, Madame Blavatsky wrote very clearly, the only God that person is speaking to is the God within himself, is your mind, your soul, and your spirit. So we have to look at this premise of conversation with God as there is no separation between you and God. You is God. God is you. And whenever we are speaking to God, we are speaking in a way to ourselves. And the dreams will be one of the vehicles where we are connecting to ourselves, to one unity of you and your divine self. And the second premise is, that is very important for this discussion, is lower mind and a higher mind. We had lots of discussions over who is ruling and who is on top and who is below and who has power over what and why higher mind cannot overrule lower mind. The way I thought to project it is really the infinity of connection between the lower mind and the higher mind. And this is the point of connection, and the higher mind does not overrule the lower mind on the plane of matter, on the physical world. The same thing, it's not completely disconnected. What is important is the handshake between the lower mind and the higher mind. And dreaming is, in a way, that handshake. And the reading before the talk said that before we live, we have to die. That's also saying from the St. Paul, we must die so we may live again. And this is very important because, in a way, for our higher mind to live, to be awake, the lower mind has to rest and be more subtle, so we could hear the higher mind, or which is also divine speaking through us and is part of us. There are lots of dreams. From my own experience, I can say I have dreams that are very insightful, that really deliver a message that is important, and there are dreams that are completely chaotic and just movies. And this is how I call them. There are dreams that bring messages, and there are dreams that are dreams educational with messages, and there are dreams for entertainment. It can be horror movies, can be drama movies, can be comic movies. This is how Madame Blavatsky also classifies dreams. There are ordinary dreams and there are real dreams. And the ordinary dreams are derived from the works of the lower mind that processes daytime information, experiences, aspirations, and presents it in the form of dreams. And there are also dreams of the higher mind. And the higher mind, if you wish to see it as a mind that sort of sits on top and sees the entire plane of existence, that sees into the core of things. And those dreams are educational, they are instructional, they are the dreams through which we can derive important messages for our physical life. In Theosophical Tenets, Madame Blavatsky classifies dreams in 7 types. First one are prophetic dreams. Prophetic dreams are always very clear. There is a voice in your dream, or there is a clear vision what needs to be done. There's never a moment of doubt. When you recall that dream, it is very, very clear. There are allegorical dreams. Those are usually pictures that you can relate to your real life, but they are sort of distorted. They're only partially looking into reality because it's a distortion. So our lower mind did not really receive the entire information. They're distorted, and they're up for interpretation. So it's really how we interpret them, and they do not deliver the true message of what the ultimate reality is. There are also dreams brought by adepts, or, as Madame Blavatsky calls them, other mesmerizers, or powerful minds that imprint messages on us. That's dreams that we have to be careful, because we really don't know where the dream is coming from. There are retrospective dreams, dreams where we process events of this life or often of past lives. And when we're processing through dreams events of past lives, this is where in a dream, I wouldn't call it higher mind, when we are connecting to Akashic records through astral light. There are warning dreams that usually can be delivered or by our higher mind or by other messengers as adepts or maybe other powerful minds. And there are confused dreams and chaotic pictures. Those are the pictures that simply result of the activities. There are also several patterns that we can see in dreaming. One pattern is that some dreams repeat consistently, that we often can recall that there is dreams that keeps coming back. When the dream keeps coming back, there is a certain message that's being delivered by our higher mind, but the lower mind is not receiving it. So it keeps coming back, but this handshake is not taking place. So it does repeat. Then there is another pattern in dreams. Sometimes you can perceive that in a dream that you are dreaming. It doesn't happen often, but once in a while we do actually consciously understand in the dream that we are dreaming. Those dreams are called conscious dreams or lucid dreams. In fact, the adepts or highly spiritual people who have a very strong handshake between lower and higher mind are able to have those lucid dreams. For people with a bigger disconnect, it is much harder because there is no good communication between the lower mind and higher mind. There are certain techniques. That's something that we often see in magazines and all the information bombards us, how to basically talk to your higher mind and elicit lucid dreaming. But in reality is you don't work on the mechanics. What needs to be done is the closer handshake between lower mind and the higher mind, the raising of our consciousness and our spirituality, and then this handshake will happen. So the mechanical and technical working on the dream is not really something that we should be pursuing or something that will be helping us long term. There are dreams that are consciously invoked, and once again, when it was very interesting to read about adepts, how they dream, that they actually do not dream because they are fully in control of the lower mind and the higher mind, so they simply quiet down the lower mind and they go to different planes. They do not dream the dreams that we do dream. So they do invoke states that they choose to invoke. Now that we looked at different types of dreams, the core question is, what is the nature of dreams? Who is actually dreaming? Because when we can understand who is dreaming, then we can understand what we can do with that information. Basically, who is dreaming and where that information is coming from and what do we do with that information? Those are the core questions. You may have heard the sayings, he is lost in dreams, or he is besides himself with worry or loss. If you look at the sentence as a language structure, he, let's say he, John, is lost in dreams. So he, the personality of John himself, is lost. He is no longer there, and he is lost in the process of dreaming. The same thing when we say he is besides himself. So whoever he is no longer within himself, he is elsewhere. So he is also lost, he is not there. So the core message is, he is not he. So when he is lost, when our physical personality, where all what we conceive of ourselves and our world is lost, there is a perceiver. The perceiver who perceives that we are lost or we are there. And that's the perceiver who is dreaming. Madame Blavatsky gave a very good analogy of the prisoner. That there is a prisoner and there is a guard. And the prisoner is our higher ego that basically imprisoned. And there is a guard, our lower ego, our personal self, that keeps that higher ego imprisoned in our conceptions, our memories, our images. And that higher ego cannot express itself. And the process of dreaming is that process where that prisoner can actually escape because the guard is sleeping. Because he, the personality, is lost, is not there, or is sleeping. Who is the guard? The guard is our personal self. It is our personality. It's who we often think we are acting on the physical plane. And the thinking process and perceiving process of that personality is highly limited by a prism of desire. The first is there is a specific desire of each individual for something. That desire generates will to achieve that desire. That will examines all the memories and all experiences, and from that generates a reason, and then examines all events, all people, all beings through that prism of that reason. And it's a very narrow prism, so clearly that personality does not see into the matter of things. It only sees things as a reflection of the desire it contains within itself. And for that personality to see the matter of things, that will, desire, reason, memories, and all that analyzing, correlating, comparing, finding the best solution has to be quieted down. The entire plane of desire has not to be there. Then suddenly you can see clearly when highly spiritual people or adepts want to see the core of things, they don't need to go to sleep, because they see it, because they are not constrained by that prism of personal view on everything. For the mind that is not as trained yet in spiritual matters, it is the state of dreaming or a state of daydreaming. Actually, it was very interesting to see that Madame Blavatsky does not classify that we're able to dream only when we're in a state of sleep. It is a state of dreaming, not a physical state of being asleep, that matters. There is a daydreaming, there is imagination, fantasy creation, that's all of the same nature. That actually a human being does not to be asleep to have the same process happening in his mind and basically generating the same images as the dreams. And this is interesting because the language itself does not differentiate. He is dreaming. He is dreaming when he's sleeping, and he is dreaming when he is dreaming about something, when he's completely lost and gone with that dreaming. So the state that in a way we are seeking is the state of disconnection from that personal self and connection to higher self. This is the state of dreaming where we are able to see things more clearly. Now the key question, what are we seeking through the dreams? Because many people want to see dreams, want to understand dreams, want to interpret dreams. There's an entire industry of dream books with lots of symbology. We all want to see dreams, we all want to interpret dreams, to understand dreams, to have meaningful dreams. What we're actually seeking through the process of dreaming is clairvoyance. We want to see things clearly. So even our physical personality, our self understands that we are not able to find answers to our daily questions, we're confused. And we want to have clairvoyance. Now what is clairvoyance? It is as simple as direct perception. It is seeing through matter. It is having a vision of a divine form as including all forms. If we are lost in our own form, in our own desire, in our own perceptions, of course we are not seeing all divine and all forms within it. So we are not able to achieve that clairvoyance. Now what is non-clairvoyant vision? Non-clairvoyant vision, I would like to utilize a comparison of a hall of mirrors in Alice in Wonderland. When Alice ends up in a hall of mirrors, all what she sees is a distorted images coming at her. When we are not seeing things in a clairvoyant way, when we are seeing events, people, circumstances, beings through our personal self, through a lower mind, we see them through once again through the prism of our own desire, our fears, analysis of our memories that generate reason that we apply to everything. So that itself creates distortion. So whenever we view another individual, we often don't see the individual. We see it in a hall of mirrors, a reflection of our own fears, our own desires, and how we project that individual back to us. Seeing clearly into the matter of things is seeing above and beyond our personal interests and our lower mind. So we have to transcend that and connect to the higher mind. Madame Blavatsky was asked, should we generate dreaming? Should we try to attempt to see more dreams, to understand more dreams? And her answer was very simple. We should not cultivate dreaming. We should cultivate power to dream. And the power to dream is not necessarily power to see dreams per se. The power to dream is the power to disconnect or quiet the lower mind and connect to the higher mind and to receive that more fuller picture, the clairvoyant picture into the matter of things that allow us to see the entire picture that goes beyond our own self-interest or limitations. And of course, dreaming is one of the natural states where the lower mind quiets down, but there are many other ways to achieve it. Meditation is one of that it can be as valuable resource for us to quiet lower mind and connect to our higher mind, to be able to have this handshake and to receive information and exchange information. Now, where do we receive information when we dream? The most valuable information that we receive when we dream is coming from the first principle. It is from our own conversation with the divine principle in us. We are the ones who have all the answers. They're all with us because we're the microcosm of the macrocosm that is completely divine, and we hold all of the answers for ourselves or for others if we transcend through that personality prism that distorts things and able to connect to our divine self, to our higher mind. The second source of information is astral light that can read information from the Akashic record. Astral light has to be taken really carefully. There is all the record of things that happen, that things will happen, that are stored. But if our higher mind is able to perceive that information and read that information, once again, when our lower mind receives it, it can distort it in an enormous ways, and it will bring more harm than good. So yes, there are prophetic dreams, there are dreams that warn us, that has been derived through connection, through astral light, reading that Akashic record, but that's something to be taken carefully. And then there is also imprinting of ideas, and it was quite interesting to see that Madame Blavatsky wrote that one of the most dangerous states is the state of mediumship. It is where your higher mind is not able to protect you because you are completely passive. And this is the ideas can be imprinted on you. They can happen during the sleep as well. And the last one, where information is coming from, that was completely proven to be not true, is when there once again lots of social media sources where there is a perception that God is talking to us. No, the God is not talking to us. There is no God outside of us to talk to us or us to talk to God. This is us talking within ourselves to our own divine, own divinity within us. Once we understand the value of dreams, that not all of them are valuable, some are not, how to cultivate that power of dreaming. Should we have a dream book by our side on our tables and a pen to record our dreams so we could really derive the value? And here is interesting advice that actually came from Madame Blavatsky herself, where she wrote what prevents us from having meaningful dreams and what should we do with the dreams themselves. One thing that completely eliminates all dreaming and all meaningful dreaming is drinking. In a drunken state, person does not receive any information, does not dream, does not rest. It's basically a state of a stupor in which images in the most convoluted and chaotic ways appear in the mind. So first, it does not bring any messages, and second, it does not provide even the physical rest for the lower mind. So that was very, very interesting that if somebody wants to receive information, it's definitely not through consumption of alcohol. And definitely not before going to sleep. And actually, even in from any medical sources, you will see that alcohol distorts sleep cycle. So it's really completely breaks not only the sleep cycle in the physical state, but also on the connection with your higher mind. You're completely disconnected. So there's not even a possibility of having the handshake. The other reason why a person simply would not dream is a very, very heavy physical labor. And that's also interesting to observe that sometimes when you really worked physically, you have very restful but dreamless sleep. And you feel really, really rested, but there are often no dreams. Now, should we have the dream book and should we have the pen? And the clear advice coming from the Theosophical sources is for us not to be the dream chasers. On the dream books, as later already in 19th century, in the 20th century, the concepts of Freud and concepts of Jung shown that there are common archetypes like fire or thunder that all humans can relate as a symbol. But in reality, all those symbols are so personal to each individual soul and the soul's experiences that to really interpret what that dream means can be interpreted only by the higher divine side of that individual. That no dream book can actually say that the thunder in your dream meant danger. It really depends on the experience of this life, of experience of past lives to interpret what did that mean in the specific circumstances and also in the specific circumstances of the person's challenges in this life. In terms of writing down dreams, there is an interesting paradigm when sometimes there is something, you've dreamed of something important, you woke up and you want to remember it, but it's not there. And then suddenly you'll smell the smell of orange, or you'll open the window, and with the breeze that whole memory comes back. And here the advice that I've derived is that with the lower mind, we shouldn't be trying to induce our dreams. The lower mind cannot induce the higher mind. With the lower mind, we shouldn't be trying to capture the higher mind. The higher mind will deliver the messages to the lower mind, to us, in the right time. We actually have to trust it to do its work and to give us information when we need it. And not to try to sort of chase after it and try to mechanically record or understand or induce it. It will come just in the right time and the right triggers that have been embedded in the dream. That it's almost like you can compare it to software coding. There is somewhere in a dream a code when this dream will have to come back to you. It may come back in 2 weeks, it may come back in 1 day, maybe you'll remember it in the morning. But we have to learn to trust that higher mind to deliver that information when and how it is needed. And cultivating power of dreaming. Cultivating power of dreaming is getting closer to your spiritual self. In whatever we do, through meditation, through readings, so really connecting and observing what messages universe in a way presents to us, because sometimes that connection with the higher mind may happen in a dream, it may happen in meditation, it may happen through simply observing simple circumstances around us. It does not have to be the dream. But there is an important thing that must happen for that handshake to actually take place. And that's something that we ourselves often prevent. And I would like to use a comparison. If the lower mind is our personal self with a broken cup in our hands, and we want to get a drink, and there is a higher mind who says, I will fix your cup, I'll pour the water, just give me the cup, and we hold to it, and we will not let go. We want that water, we want that cup to be fixed, but we cannot let go. But the higher mind cannot forcefully pull it away from us and fix things for us and pour the water. We have to let go. And that's a very important part for that handshake. In a way, when you look at the examples, when like Einstein or many others received answers to their big questions in their dreams, and it can be questions to a scientific search, can be questions to personal problems, questions to any type of search that human soul is undertaking on Earth. they didn't come when that person really said, I really want the answer, and I'm going to program my mind to receive that answer tonight. I want it now. No, it happened when there was an ultimate concentration of all senses, of all abilities, on one point of that pursuit. And I don't want to call that desire, of that pursuit. There was complete concentration on that pursuit, and then your lower mind has to let go. Just completely let go of it. Say, I have pursued it to the point I could pursue it. I've done everything that I could do, and here this question remains, and I am not capable to solve it. I, the lower mind, I, the personality, not capable to solve it, and I leave it to thy will. And thy will often appears in the Christian literature. So we're not really living to thy will of an impersonal God who may take care of us. We're leaving it to the thy will, to our higher mind, to take the cup from us and start fixing and helping us to grow and achieve that understanding and achieve that clairvoyance of seeing into the matter of things. It is also interesting to see that many groups, many support groups are using that technique. The AA and many others are coming to the point where they say, our lower mind could not achieve that. We're leaving it to the higher mind. We're leaving it to the higher mind to work on it, be it in a dream state or being in a awake state. As Madame Blavatsky said, it's very, very important not to perceive dreaming as only dreaming when we're asleep. Now I would like to conclude with a reading of a fairy tale and examine it from the Theosophical standpoint, because I believe that fairy tales hold lots of information from us, and it's really collective wisdom that is condensed for our consumption, and if we can examine it theosophically, it very, very well demonstrates what this talk was about and what is the power of dreaming. And the fairy tale is a very, very well-known, well-recognized fairy tale by every Russian child. It's a Russian fairy tale called Vasilisa. The story is there is an orphan girl, and it's interesting that all fairy tales have almost the same stories. So it is really coded information. There is an orphan girl, her mother dies, and she is with her step-parents, and her stepmother says, you have to go to the forest and get the fire. And the fire is clairvoyance. It is seeing through the matter of things. She goes in the forest, and she is completely inexperienced. She has no idea what she's doing. She's never been in the forest alone. But her mother gave her a little doll. She keeps her in the pocket. And before her mother died, she said, ask that doll anything you need to know, and she will help you to understand what needs to be done. Because at some point in your life, you'll reach the point you'll have no idea what to do. She stumbles on the witch, and she comes to the witch and she says, I came here to get the fire. I need the fire. And the witch replies to her that I can't possibly give you fire until you have done work for me. If you perform this task for me, you shall have the fire. If not, my child, you shall die. You will wash my clothes, sweep the yard and clean my house, prepare my food, separate the milled corn from the good corn, and see that everything is in order. So Vasilisa turns to her doll as soon as witch has gone. What shall I do? Can I complete these tasks in time? The doll assures her she could, and to eat a little and go to sleep. Vasilisa fed the doll a little too, and then she slept. Through the night the doll had done all the work, and all that remained was the meal to be cooked. The next task, the witch pointed a great mound of dirt in the yard. In that pile of dirt are many poppy seeds, millions of poppy seeds. And I want in the morning to have one pile of poppy seeds and one pile of dirt, all separated out from each other. Do you understand? And the Vasilisa says, okay, I will do. She asks the doll, and doll says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Sleep now, and all will be well. In the morning, doll accomplishes all these tasks. The doll is that higher mind that says, if your lower mind sleeps, I will find the solutions. I will lead you through the solutions, but it has to be a handshake of the two. The lower mind should not be working and trying to solve and address everything through that prism of distorted vision that it has. What Vasilisa does, she lets go of her clear understanding it can be done. She has no idea how to separate dirt from poppy seeds, how to distinguish such a small things, how to see through the matter of things and be able to do things that cannot be done. But she consults with her higher mind, puts asleep her lower mind and does the work. And through that, she acquires the fire, she acquires the wisdom, she acquires the knowledge. As she is really working through the, not just through the higher mind, but through that handshake. And this is why I believe we should not think which one is good, which one is bad, which one should be in control, how to gain control of the lower mind, but how to achieve that handshake where they can work together in that in this physical plane to transmit information back and forth and help us acquire the fire. That will conclude the talk. We can go to the questions. I can't interpret anyone's dreams.
Oh wow! Now I'm really disappointed. Is it safe to say, from what you've read, that that dreaming, whether asleep or awake, is a state of where the lower mind is quiet and the higher mind is active? Dreaming.
Mm-hmm. That was the most interesting discovery, because that's something I didn't know before, that it really depends. You can be dreaming completely just with the lower mind, or you can be dreaming with the higher mind. That's why there are so many types of dreams, and some of these dreams Madame Blavatsky called as chaotic or confusing, and those dreams are coming from the lower mind. So you really have to separate the dirt and the poppy seeds.
Okay, well that leads to the next question. Creating this harmony between the lower mind and the higher mind, does that require the lower mind or the lower self to surrender to something?
It is not a surrender where it completely surrenders. Once again, this is a feeling, this is a very deep topic, because if we can fully understand it, we probably can move one step closer to being adepts. The lower mind should still pursue its earthly task. Whatever we have to do in this plane, we have to pursue. But it is a knowledge of letting go. Of yes, this is something that I really, really want, and we're going that direction, but letting go that if it is not happening, that's okay. Of letting go the decision-making power to the higher mind and being attuned to the working of the higher mind to guide us, and not to go stubbornly towards what we perceive through distortions of the lower mind that we just want to get there through all the ways of reason. So it is still maintaining the lower mind still will maintain the vision where we're going in this incarnation, but its ability to let go and let the higher mind and through that process of letting go, being able to receive guidance from the higher mind. So in a way it is a surrender, but it's not abandonment of the lower mind and its workings.
Is the fact that you have that higher mind and lower mind diagram in the sign of the infinite, or the figure 8, is there a relationship? I mean, is that symbolic of something? This the sign of the infinite?
This is just how I try to portray it in an understandable way. There is really nothing symbolic about it, but it is really was the best way to connect the two, and it's really an eternal connection.
It's
infinite
eternal connection.
So it's not, I have to say, this is not taken from any theosophical text. It's just trying to portray the concept or idea in an easily consumable way.
this student's understanding is that when we are falling asleep, that the brain has to fall asleep first. In other words, if the brain activity continues, you're not asleep. This is what the Theosophical literature defines. And that when you're actually moving into the dream world, you're moving into your astral body. And the astral body, we have to remember, has 7 levels. And we're told on its lower side, it is connected to earth. But on the Akashic side, it is connected to the higher levels of consciousness. And that in order to read on those planes of consciousness, we have to be able to read on all of them and connect it and synthesize it into a whole in order to get a complete view of it. I think you mentioned all that. But to this student's understanding, as long as the brain is active, you cannot sleep. You might be doing daydreaming, but you're not asleep. Because when you move into your astral, that's when you're dreaming. And when you move to the higher levels of the astral, that connects you to your higher. Higher mind is our divine self. It does not belong to the earth level at all. Its consciousness, we are told, is at a higher level.
Hi. Oh, so tiny. Okay. I have my, I don't want to say idea of your discussion. I like to place experiences with personal experiences with. I don't care what it is I'm doing. Otherwise, I won't follow it. It's just my makeup. I'm lost. But here, I find, based on everything that you've been saying, the only thing I could have thought of was my husband. He was into philosophy and Theosophy and metaphysical studies and all of that. He was way above me with all that. And so he tried to teach me a lot of things, and I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my personal experience to apply it to, instead of listening to him at me. And so I'm a ballet teacher, choreographer, and what I decided to do, actually I didn't decide. I was in a very bad experience about 20 years ago. And I had this dream relating to that experience that I had. And when I had the dream, I literally knew I was dreaming. I said, I'm going to wake up out of this dream. I'm going to take, it was a ballet, and I'm going to take it, I'm going to write it down. This I will not forget. So I woke up early in the morning. I woke up and I said, Karen, screaming. She's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I have a ballet. And so this was years ago. I didn't perform that ballet deliberately until 2008. And this was 84 that I had the dream. And I had it, but I wanted more. I wanted more experiences, whether it was trials, whether it was, just general learning experiences, whatever. And I did, and it completed the ballet. And I performed it, and it was phenomenal. And it was just, and so every time that I have personal experiences unrelated to ballet or whatever, this is how I do it. And I find that the more that I'm quieted by everyday life, whether I'm meditating or I'm just, or, I do music therapy and I do different things. I use that, and I've learned that it's not separating one from the other. It's simultaneously just, allowing the alter ego to be set back. And allowing my higher self to, and it's like, I guess it's a science of it, I guess. It just brings them naturally. You can't write it down, you can't study it, it's a setup. And it comes together like the, shaking of the hands. It coexists. They're not separated. And I learned that. So everything that I do is just that. If I feel I'm overcompensating in one area, I'll pull back. And I'm constantly, I don't want to say juggling, but I'm constantly just, trying to build that harmony on a daily basis. It's fun because it works.
That is wonderful. It's really being attuned to what is happening within you, what's happening outside, and keeping it in balance.
Absolutely.
And using all the tools that we have within us to get attuned. No question.
You mentioned that adepts don't dream. Now, years ago, when I was a little bit younger than I am now, I dreamed a lot. And as I got a little older, I dreamed a little bit less. Now I'm not aware that I dream. So am I an adept? Or am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? I know the answer to that question. You don't have to say it. Am I dreaming and don't know it?
We all hope that you're an adept. That would be wonderful.
My higher self is an adept, right? The handshake is sometimes not there, but you know.
Actually, there are the two explanations of not dreaming. People who are not very spiritual and really disconnected from their higher mind don't dream.
Oh my.
Or adepts who already overconnected and no longer need to have the handshake. It was actually something interesting I did not know about. It was in the Tenets of the Theosophical Lodge, where the question was addressed to Madame Blavatsky, do adepts dream and what do they dream about? And her answer was no, they don't dream. They simply not disconnect, but they basically completely subdue the lower mind and go to a different plane of existence. Or if you're going to other planes of existence, please tell us about it.
I just have a comment in terms of the scientific aspect of this question. They have proved by measuring physically or mechanically the dream state of the sleeping. It's not possible when you sleep not to dream. So it's just most of the time people, they just don't remember it. So that's why when they see the waves that shows dreaming, if they wake that person up, they are able to tell what they're dreaming. If they wait until morning, they won't remember. So probably you are dreaming, don't worry.
That's why Dwyer says, if you dream something and you wake up, write it down right away because you forget about it. In my case, I probably forget before I wake up.
There was an interesting reference in the Theosophic text to a sensory ganglia of cerebellum, that this is actually the organ within the brain, the part of the brain that retains dreams. And it can be well developed and active, and it retains dreams, or it can be less developed, or through the physical labor or through the consumption of alcohol, it can be sort of made weaker. I did not look into any scientific research on the sensory ganglia, would be interesting, but that was mentioned as basically the part in the brain that is responsible for retaining dreams. So there are dreams, but they're being retained or they're not being retained.
I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on the prism that I think you described as desire, affairs, and could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Okay, the prism of the personal, of the lower mind, and the thinking of the personal self. The personal self is the core. The core basic engines of the personal self is to move closer to pleasure and go further from pain. It is to survive, experience pleasure. It is to move away from pain and hardship. That's what the physical body does. Based on that, it uses the tool available to our physical mind, and the tools are past experience. What happened to me in the past? Well, if this happened when I done that, then this will happen again if I do this. So I need to protect myself from that and act in that way. There is also a desire to move away from pain and move closer to the pleasure and well-being. So there is a desire to ensure my well-being. So everything is looked through the prism of that desire. So if that person, whatever they say, does it fit into my well-being? Can it help me? Can it advance my goals and my objectives? and suddenly you don't see that person and what they're actually saying, but you see how does it reflect on my desire, will, my past experiences, and that prism of reason that our lower mind created to analyze past experience, the desire, the consequences to me from the circumstances or other people, that is completely distorted. That if we would not be the prisoners to our desire and our fear, that is other side of the desire, we would see things for what they are. So often people truly destroy the good relationships and good circumstances because they act out of fear or act out of some personal pursuit that really didn't have to be in that way. That they were not able to perceive the true message that the other being brings them, or that circumstance presents an opportunity. Their prism of the personal mind examined experience in the past and said, if this is this, then that is that. And that became the reason, the formula, and that formula applied over and over to every circumstance and basically destroys the opportunities that the universe presents to us. And to really see into the matter of things, what this circumstance presents to us aside of past experience and our desires. What does it present to us in terms of our agreement with ourselves for this incarnation? What is our purpose and what we need to do, not what we want to do based on our desires or fears. That is the clairvoyance.
This statement, this student read in one of the articles where it said, I think it is HPV's, where it is stated that when the higher self wants to impress the personality with a prophetic or important message, it actually awakens that ganglionic center and impresses it on the brain so that the personality remembers it. It was very interesting to read that. So the divine self is capable of doing whatever is necessary to impart that information to you from that statement.
Interesting. Yeah. There was also an interesting, I did not go in depth, it's a little bit a different topic, but it also was a very interesting topic that during the sleep, two people who are closely related and share common reality can imprint their things on each other, and not necessarily in a negative way, but they can dream of the reality of the other person that was not shared through the physical means. They can perceive in a dream what that person is going through, even that person never expressed that there is that connection.
I was a dreamer, a serious dreamer. When I was in my 20s, I just dreamed crazy. I could remember 3 dreams. When I woke up, I could remember mostly 3 dreams clearly. And some of the dreams that I had, I think the first one I had when I was 7, 8, I had the same dream when I was in my first year in high school. Then I had the same dream again when I married my husband. And 3 years after that, I had the same dream, the exact same dream. I never understood what it was. I tried to, but it was I remember verbatim exactly the same thing. So I don't know what that's called. I don't know what type of dreaming is that when you have a reoccurrence or of the same dream.
It's very interesting that you almost gave the answer to your own question.
Uh-oh.
You said, I've never understood what it means.
Okay.
The moment you would understand it, it would not repeat.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay.
It's the higher mind, or it's basically transmission of the message to you and you're not receiving it. So it transmits again and you're not receiving it. It transmits again.
Huh.
And at some point, if I guess, this is just a guess, if there's so many transmissions happening you didn't receive it, it may come through some other means, not necessarily from the dream, or maybe you've interpreted that.
Now, would you consider a nightmare a form of a dream? A sleep dream?
That was actually, it came up in the Theosophical text quite a bit, that there are some nightmares is when we do venture in the Kamaloka, and we bring complete nightmare on ourselves. That when we sort of enter the planes where we shouldn't be entering. The other causes of nightmare, once again, is alcohol, or just lower mind creating chaotic images. So most nightmares don't have much meaning, don't have much consequences, they are not prophetic. The prophetic dreams would be the dreams where you absolutely clearly have a voice, have a vision, you just know it. But the nightmare, when all these bad things happening, is basic chaotic workings of your mind that you need to reconnect with yourself and rebalance and rest.
Okay, that's interesting because I had a nightmare. I don't have nightmares, but I had a nightmare this night, and my niece had the exact same nightmare. Of course, when I woke up from the nightmare, I just went to the restroom. She woke up the nightmare screaming and hollering. She was only 4. We had the exact same dream, the exact same time. That was bizarre, but I don't think about it much. But now that we're talking, this discussion, it's like, well, what was that? It's very different, but I don't know.
There was only one type of nightmares that Madame Blavatsky actually described in her text, is the type of nightmares where dreamer is escaping or pursuing something and cannot get it. Like you are running to the door and the door is closed. You almost escaped into the taking off train, but it left without you. You're almost there and suddenly something happens and you cannot reach it. And the way she described those dreams was that basically your higher mind can reach you, but something is happening that it can reach you. It's trying to reach you, but in that dream it's showing that there is shut down. That something between, basically what Tunja pointed out, that the connection at all levels is not happening. That we're grasping some piece of information and it's just like one piece and our mind doesn't know what to do with it. It has to be really connected on all planes to have a full prophetic or educational dream that we can process. That we grab some information, but the train is leaving, the door is closed, and something is happening in the last moment, and we're just not getting there. So she actually addressed that specific nightmare.
To answer that childry, in the theosophical literature, we're told that children up to 7, they're an open book because they connect to everything astral. In other words, that connection is definitely there. And at 7, it closes. It's very interesting. At 7, reason comes, the mind is lighted, but then you lose the astral vision. And it's very interesting.
I wondered about the lucid dream, and I think you described that as dreaming, and I guess a type of lucid dream would be dreaming and knowing that you're dreaming. So is that like being in a dream and then realizing that you're dreaming?
There's several stages of lucidity. One stage of lucid dreams where you're dreaming and maybe something very scary is happening, and you tell yourself, this is a dream, I know this is a dream, it will be over soon. The second stage is when you're dreaming and you're understanding that you're dreaming, this is just a dream, and then you can also change direction of your dream. But that's fairly advanced.
You can change the direction of your dream.
When you have the power over that to say, well, we're not going to dream about that, we're going to move away. In most cases we don't. Sometimes you even wake up from a nightmare, take a break and go back to that nightmare.
How do you know when you're having a dream that's coming from your higher self and not your lower self? Your lower mind, higher mind.
They are clear. They don't make you struggle. What does that mean? Or did this horrible event gonna happen? It's just a very clear message. You just know that's what it is. As I've mentioned, the allegorical dreams, they're also pieces of information. But you know, you dream you are a big elephant jumping in a waterfall. What does it mean? You really have to try to interpret. So you didn't receive the message. You received some distorted picture. You may interpret it this way or that way. But when you truly connect to your higher mind, it's just this. There's one very interesting case. It was from the it was shared by one of the most renowned professors of schizophrenia at the International Theosophy Conference. He had an entire talk about dreaming. And he was writing his key principles on treatment of schizophrenia. And he was finishing his book, he was about to publish it, and he just was feeling that something he's not getting. I'm sorry, I forgot the name. I can bring the name if somebody's interested. He's just not getting something right. Something is not it. And he's finished the book, so he has to publish, and something was keeping him from it. And then he said, okay, I done it, I'm going to publish it, but I don't know what it is. I will understand what it is. I know that I will receive the message. If something wrong, I will know it. Because at this point, I give up. I don't know why I'm hesitant. And he went to sleep, and he said that the most renowned professor of schizophrenia says, I have a clear voice talking to me. And the voice said, in a very rough and sort of not polite terms, basically, you idiot, you are killing people with your medicine. Stop it. He went back to all his postulates and redone the whole book, and now it's a very different approach. And basically, it basically defined his whole approach, that everything he was doing, he was an idiot. He was killing people. You idiot, you're killing people, you don't do this. So it came as it wasn't like an allegorical picture of me climbing the mountain and falling down and trying to, it was, you are this, and you shouldn't be doing this. Wake up. So you know you're connected to your higher mind.
I just wanted to make, I don't understand what this comment means. It's Mr. Judge's article. He says, in learning to be present in your dreams, because where are we when we are in dream state? We're with the higher self. Or there is no lower self, as you said, it's gone to sleep. We're in those higher realms of being. And he says, the only way the personality can retain that information is when you narrow the channel of exit and you come back into your waking consciousness through the same narrow channel. I don't know what that means, but this is his recommendation, and this student has been wondering over it for many years, still hasn't figured it out.
Narrow the channel.
Of exit. In other words, have a narrow, like a tube. Go in the tube and then go to those realms. Don't have a wide open space when you're going and another wide space when you're coming back. But I'm not quite sure how that works or how you bring that kind of channeling. Because you're saying leave the dreams alone and they come. That's true. But he says, until we learn to do this process, he says, we're not going to be very successful in bringing that knowledge that we're experiencing, because he says these are states that we go through during sleep are very beneficent states of being, and that if we were to bring back the knowledge that we are experiencing in those states, all our worldly problems then would have an answer to it, because we could use it to solve many different kind of problems that our society is experiencing. It was very interesting. It's one of Mr. Judge's articles, but this student doesn't know what that exactly means.
But this is just an association that I have. This was answered by Ms. Blavatsky on don't remember which question, but where she said how to achieve insight. And the association I have was that narrow exit or entry point path. She wrote that to achieve insight, all senses have to be brought into a very narrow one-point condition. When all of the senses, and I'm not sure if she was speaking, well, if she's speaking of senses, probably senses of the lower mind, but maybe not. She did not expand. But all senses have to be brought to a sort of one-pointed condition, to the extreme culmination, and through that culmination of all senses is achieved insight or imagination, or basically what Mr. Judge is writing, the exit. Which senses? That's the question. How do we achieve one-pointedness of senses?
She says that when the six are slain and put at the master's feet in the voice of the silence, so the synthetic aspect of that, you have to perhaps become one-pointed, is what you're saying. and whatever that state means, all of your external senses are synthesized into an internal one, because she said until you reach the internal sense of touch, whatever that is, it doesn't happen. So perhaps these are inner stages that they're putting words to, that you perhaps perceive when you have actually experienced it.
Just have one comments based on some of the things that I have heard. You know, it helps to have a good deep sleep, which help to communicate with higher self. If you do meditate right before sleep, so basically clear your mind out of everything physically that you did that day, and then just go to sleep like that, open, and then you will be open to basically receiving all the messages.
Yes, very true. Instead of sitting there and programming your higher mind, I want to see the dream, I want to see the dream. Instead, meditate and quiet.
Go quiet.
Just a little tidbit that the student is trying to put together, and just thought about it as you did the presentation. You talked about you and God. You talked about the higher mind, the lower mind, and this in the brain we talked about. Jill, I forget her last name now. She's a Harvard researcher, and I think she might have had a dream. She didn't say it was this, sort of a dream. She had a stroke. Yeah, brain researcher. Many of you may have seen her on the internet. She's on YouTube. But she said that there was a time, in terms of us being that, thou art that, she could not differentiate between her hand and everything else around her. She just became one with everything. And also she talked about the different sides of the brain, which is the analytical side, and and thinking about analogy and correspondence. That might be something on the physical level that would help us better understand this higher mind versus lower mind. We've got the analytical side and the reasoning side, and the other part of our brain. It's kind of split in half, Jill Taylor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have seen actually that experience. She was on TED program, and she was explaining I could put my hand, and my hand was going through the door or the wall. I could not see the exact, like she tried to call 911, but she could not read the actual numbers. It was like codes. So she was saying most of the things that we see on our daily life is just our interpretation of our brain. It may not be the actual reality.
That's interesting.
Yes, and that was interesting because now I have another association with something I've read, and I didn't put it in a context. I read it was in the sections about dreams, and I sort of set it aside. Madame Blavatsky was very much emphasizing in the context of dreams. One of the utmost important principles of practical occultism, that is that any one element, its identity, its power, its energy, can be transmuted in any other element. And that's sort of what you're speaking of, that door can be a door, but can be completely not a door, because that element can be immediately transformed into another element.
But in your mind.
Yes, and then she wrote that every object of matter has consciousness. So as every object of matter has consciousness, it has that ability to transform. And when we are on that level of consciousness, in our consciousness, we can actually go through that transformation.
And then one other comment, I think we basically, after childhood, we condition our mind to think certain way. So we think if there is a door, it has to be solid, so you cannot go through it. You just teach your mind that this is the way to be. So if you train yourself not to limit your mind to certain things, there's nothing you cannot do. Everything is doable. That's how there have been people that has been able to walk on the water or touch the fire and not be burned, because these are all through mind, I guess.
Maya. Because this world is Maya, which is illusionary, but nevertheless it is real to the souls who are having experience on earth. So even though it is Mayavic, that once you learn to go behind it to the noumenal aspect of it, which is the real that supports the Mayavic, then only would we understand the universal plan of being. So that is very interesting also that there is a universal plan of progression, but we don't know what it really is because, as the speaker said, we look at it in portions, not in its totality. So once you learn and you go behind the scenes of the supposedly physical, then I think it gives you a different perspective. Because when you look at all of the teachers worldwide, the ones that come to help show the way, sort of, they have a constant performance of that particular thing that they have come to impart. They never deviate from it, but they're persecuted, every one of them, because we as human beings look at them from our own limited perspective, whereas those that come to help humanity come from the universal perspective. Their program is that of the universe, not of the human limited mind. It's very interesting.
That all summarizes: to live, we must die. And that's not us physically. We don't need to die to live, even though that is true as well. We have to die to be born again. But to live, for the spirit, our lower prism has to die, or we simply cannot live because that has to die. Yeah. Yes.
I think it's very true.
Thank you.